Hello everyone, my name is Cameron Stevens and I'm a local real estate agent here in Los Angeles. Today I'm going to talk about staging and I'm going to walk you through all of the levels of staging that are available when you go to sell your home and the advantages and disadvantages of each. First of all, I will come out and say that I am a fan of staging. I do recommend staging to all of my clients that are selling their homes, at least in some form. That being said, there are always scenarios when a full staging might not be the best option, and so we explore these different levels of staging. Let's first talk about what staging is and why it's used. Staging is when you put furniture and other accessories in a home to decorate it and help it sell quicker and for a higher price. That's pretty plain and simple. I mean, the idea here is that staging, it makes your home look better and thus it'll generate more demand for the home and it'll help it sell quicker and for that higher price. Generally speaking, staging is pretty much all psychological because the staged items, they don't come with the sale of the home. Now, some stagers will do certain things that will stay with the home when it's sold, such as adding light fixtures or maybe painting a wall. But usually when people think of staging, they're thinking of items that will eventually be removed before the new owner finalizes the purchase. Now, some people might be thinking that staging is impractical, as it is almost entirely psychological, but my opinion differs. In fact, I would make the argument that selling a home for the top dollar is almost entirely psychological. My job as a listing agent is to make as many people as possible fall in love with the home as I can, making it as desired as possible, generating demand and offers. The more demand a property has, the greater the selling price, and the more offers the seller has, the more leverage they have in the negotiation. Staging actually affects potential buyers at multiple points throughout the process. That's why it can be so important. I mean, of course, the property being staged during photography and videography means that the staging will be in both of those things, and this is the first thing a potential buyer sees when they see a new listing. Great furniture and decoration strikes a chord with people. It's emotional, and it tends to move that particular property to the top of the list of places to see in person. Then, when someone ultimately visits the home in person, staging does a number of very important things. It helps make a fantastic first impression. It adds to that wow factor. And it also helps demonstrate spatial relationships within the different rooms of the home. For example, it can show how big a certain room is, or it can minimize how small a room is. It can help differentiate between a dining room and a living room that doesn't have a clear divider. It could also show possibilities for how a particular space could be used and maybe even deemed desirable. For example, that weird corner nook that you never use and you just shove boxes in, you could have it decorated as a small gym area. Got a bedroom that's a little on the smaller size? Try this trick. You can put 2 twin beds in it, kind of make it more like a children's room, and it makes the room feel way bigger. Staging also helps depersonalize a space. It helps make a particular space feel more neutral and a blank canvas for potential buyers to imagine themselves living in the home and not stare at a wall of your family photos. And finally, and maybe honestly most importantly, staging is clean. And that means people won't be put off by a space that is unkept. Staging even has benefits after you've chosen a buyer for your home. In most cases, the buyers will be visiting the home again, a minimum of at least twice, if not more, during the escrow process. They'll be back during inspections where they'll have to hear all the little things that are wrong with your home. It helps to set a good tone during this process to continue to remind the buyers why they love your home and help them overlook any flaws that do come up during the inspection process. An appraiser will also visit your home if the buyer has a loan attached to their offer. You as the seller very much want the property to appraise, or you're likely going to enter a sticky negotiation where you may have to forfeit some money. I don't know about you, but if you want the appraisal to come back as high as possible, wouldn't you want it to look as nice as possible when the appraiser's there? Staging makes a property look as desirable as it can during each step of the process so you can get your home into escrow at the highest possible price and then keep it there throughout the process. Let's talk about the different levels of staging. First is what is called a full staging. This is when all of the items are moved out of the home, or at least into the garage, and a stager will stage every room with their furniture top to bottom. It guarantees the best looking staging for sure, but it's also the most costly, and it can land somewhere between $4,000 and $8,000 to execute depending on the size of the home. Now, most sellers understand that money will be made back in the sale price of their home and reduce stress by knowing that the home will sell quicker. But it can sometimes be a bit of a difficult expense to swallow. Also, many sellers may be partially, if not fully, living in a home while it's being sold, which can make a full staging a little bit more difficult. I mean, it is still possible to live in a home that's fully staged. I know it's been done, but a lot of times sellers just feel uncomfortable using stuff that isn't theirs or sleeping in a staged bed. Therefore, a second level of staging is what is called a partial staging. Here, the seller keeps some things, usually larger pieces or more desirable looking pieces, in the home, and then the stager comes in and adds to what is already there. If done correctly, this can be a lower cost option and a less stressful option, and can really function well if there is good communication between the seller and the stager in regards to what the seller wants to keep in the property and what the stager wants to keep. For example, if a seller really wants to keep a couch, but the couch is old or it's a bad dark color, or it's too large or something, friction, as you probably could tell, can develop between a stager who feels limited by the seller and what they can and can't do with the property. That being said, it has happened successfully for me before when I've sold properties, so it's definitely a viable option. The stager comes in and they'll add pillows and blankets to a couch, or maybe they'll put up new artwork on the walls, or they'll add plants, or even sometimes just rearrange the current furniture. They are experts and they're there to make your home look as good as possible. The next level of staging is virtual staging. Now, there are two types of virtual staging, one in which all of the furniture is out of the property, and then the photographer or the photography company adds virtual staging to all of the photos. But when people actually come to visit the property, it's ultimately completely empty. Or you do have the option where virtual staging is added to the photography, but the seller's furniture is still present. I cannot stress highly enough how much I do not recommend this second option. It is extremely jarring to see virtual staging in photos, only to have buyers visit in person and see the seller's less than desirable furniture instead. Sometimes they can even feel duped, which does not set a good tone. Instead, I recommend virtual staging as an option only as sort of an intermediary option when you can have the property be vacant, but you don't want to spend the money for a full or a partial staging. Virtual staging is significantly less money. It usually comes in at only a couple $100. Another level of staging is actually just having a vacant property. This is pretty straightforward, all the furniture is out of the home, the place is cleared, it looks bright and airy, it just doesn't have any furniture. I like this option for sellers on a budget as well, but it really must be done properly and with particular homes that lend themselves to this. Because some homes lend themselves to this much better than others. The key here is cleanliness, as a vacant property gives potential buyers an opportunity to see a blank canvas. Finally, you do have a few options in place if you would like to keep some or all of your things in the home. If the seller is open to putting some things away and really kind of cleaning up the home, this is something that I, as a listing agent, can advise very well on, and I do this for free. But I do need to know that there is a great relationship between myself and the seller, because it can be easy to offend someone when you ask them to put a piece of furniture that they really love out in the garage. Remember, staging is to open up a space. It's to make it feel large and airy, as well as depersonalize it. Your furniture might be super cool and unique, but if it's too big or polarizing, then it's a turnoff for potential buyers. But I can help. I can do this. I don't mind helping a seller figure out what pieces they should keep and what they need to put away to make the property look as best as possible. Now, if a seller wants to sell the home as is, no staging, no furniture removal, no cleaning, no nothing, I do advise them that the home will not show as well, and it will take longer to sell, and it will very likely sell at a lower price. However, this might be the seller's only option for various reasons, and that's okay too. My job as a listing agent to make sure the home sells as best as possible, and this can still totally be done. Home is a place that is incredibly unique and personal to the people that live there. An unfortunate truth is that most things that anyone uses to decorate their home with will not be the things that work psychologically as best as possible in a home that's for sale. Remember, unique and personal are not what we're going for here. We're not going for generic necessarily, certainly not, but we do want things clean and appealing to a wide audience to generate as much demand as possible. It is a fine balance, and it's definitely tough, but that is one of the big parts of my job as an advisor to my sellers. As someone who has sold many homes and worked with quite a few different staging companies, I can leverage my relationships to make the house I'm selling look fantastic at a reduced price. My job as a listing agent is to generate as much demand as possible and thus as many offers as possible to put my sellers in a highly leveraged position to get the most amount of money for their home on the best terms. That being said, I am always happy to work with whatever level of staging and presentation a seller would like to do when selling their home. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something about staging and the psychological connection to selling a home. If you're interested in purchasing your first home, I love working with first-time home buyers and taking a deep dive into what you're looking for and how we can strategize to make that happen in this still very competitive market in Los Angeles. To be successful, you need the right agent who can market you as the right buyer and understand how to craft the right offer. Otherwise, man, it is going to be tough out there. And if you're looking to sell your home, I have a fantastic program that really just blows what other listing agents are doing right out of the water. I pay for all of the aspects of digital marketing, from photography and drone footage and videography and a 3D walkthrough, as well as virtual open houses, right out of my entry-level commission structure. No other listing agent is doing this, and if they are, they're just going to go ahead and pass along the cost to you, or they're going to mark up the cost to you, but I pay for it, no questions asked. It's my way of bridging the gap between the virtual and the personal. Thanks again for watching, and don't hesitate to reach out if you'd like to chat.